Hello, Michael Tellinger here. Welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking about promissory notes, the do's and the don'ts, how to use them, the potential pitfalls and the potential trouble you might get yourself in, deeper trouble than you hope to realize and wish for. So please watch this video right to the end to understand the complexities and the problems and the potential successes with promissory notes. Now, for those of you that have been following me for a long time will be aware of my particular history with the courts in South Africa, the High Court, including the Supreme Court, or what we call the Constitutional Court in South Africa, and my action against the banks from 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13. So for 4 years, I was involved in a very extensive case against the banks in South Africa, and eventually also against the National or the South African Reserve Bank. That obviously took me on a journey of immense discovery and realizing how deep the corruption goes, how the absolute control that the banks have, how connected they are to the legal system, to our courts, our judges, and most of the attorneys and law firms in the country that have a little bit of work from the banks, and therefore they very hardly choose to back or represent somebody that takes on the banks in the court system, because then they lose a lot of money. So to just give you a quick overview what I'm going to discuss. In 2009, I started this court action against the banks, and that led me for 4 years through the court system, learning how everything works, representing myself against the highest paid attorneys that represent all the banks in South Africa. Now, when I say attorneys, I actually mean advocates. In the High Court, attorneys are not allowed. Only advocates are allowed. It's like the barrister version that you get in England and the UK. I'm not sure what the version of that would be in the USA. So we've got the normal courts where you got judges, and then the normal courts in which lawyers can go and represent people and so forth. But when you go to the High Court, you need an advocate to represent you. So I was up against the highest paid advocates that money can buy in South Africa. In fact, it was a gentleman by the name of Shem Simon, that was a shrewd Jewish lawyer advocate that was up against me, who I was up against. And he was like the third advocate that was placed to represent the banks after they realized that I wasn't just going to crumble and fold and run away with my tail between my legs. In any case, this all led to a deeper understanding of the financial systems, promissory notes, securitization, bills of exchange, and how all of this is connected to help the state and the banks keep control over the people and the countries, by the way, as well. So keep in mind that it's not just the people that the banks hold a firm control over in every aspect. Remember, money controls everything in this world today, but also our governments. And that's where the problem begins and continues, unfortunately. So after 4 years in court, eventually the case against the banks was settled with a fraudulent judgment, and I'm going to go into a lot more detail about how I know that it's a fraudulent judgment, how the entire courtroom at the time knew it was a fraudulent judgment, and I'm going to go into the details how that happened, and also into a lot more details about the promissory notes that then emerged from that we spent many weeks, or should I say several weeks, very carefully constructing, writing, putting together so that we wouldn't break any financial or fiscal laws or get ourselves into trouble by creating such instruments. Because you can imagine that the government and the banks, especially the central banks, the South African Reserve Bank, which is the equivalent of the Bank of England or the Fed in the USA and so forth, how strictly they control the issuing of bills of exchange and promissory notes, because that is their domain. They don't want anybody else to do that, right? So, to cut a long story short, in this introduction, I'm going to make the story very long as I need to fully explain the process. And as I said, the potential successes, because there have been several, but also the very real pitfalls and problems that you may pick up by taking the route of trying to use a promissory note. This is not, by the way, this is not a simple thing. This is not like, you just take a piece of paper and write, I promise to pay, and take it to the bank and think they're going to give you some money. That's not like that. And unfortunately, a lot of people that have watched my videos or followed what I've done over the years believe that it's as simple as that. So I need to dispel that immediately and make you comprehend that this is not the case. It is a very complex thing to do. And most people that try it do not succeed. There have been some that have succeeded, but most people who try it don't succeed. And there are potentially some very specific reasons why they don't succeed. And I'm going to go through those reasons because it's important to understand why all these things are so complex and why people don't succeed. I'll also share with you a great success story from Ireland, from Northern Ireland, a group of guys that I met with on Skype shortly after I had my success here in South Africa with my promissory notes, that told me about their particular court case in which they were given a settlement by the bank for, I think it was in excess of £8 million for their promissory notes. Now, this is a spectacular success story. However, like I said, not everyone is as, I guess, lucky, if you can call it that, as I have been with my promissory notes, or some other people have been, and most people that try it fail. So, what happened in 2013 when I finally lost the case, and I'll explain to you why I got into the case, what it was about, so that there's a full disclosure and a full comprehension with you watching this and understanding how this all happens, why it happened, why I didn't lose everything I had, and so forth, because it's not a simple story. So the reason, by 2013, after 4 years in court, when that fraudulent judgment was handed down and I lost the case. So please understand, I did not win the case against the banks. I lost the case. And that is why I had to create my own promissory notes, for the simple reason that because I lost the case, I was then suddenly hit with some serious, extensive court costs and attorney costs and advocate costs, and it amounted to about just short, literally like a few rand short of 1 million rand in South Africa, which is a lot of money to any South African. If you convert it to dollars or pounds, it might not sound like a lot of money. Maybe 50,000, 100,000 pounds or 50,000 pounds or something like that. But still, it's a lot of money. If you compare that kind of money to a lifestyle in the UK or a lifestyle in America, in the USA, it would be equivalent of being given a bill of $1 million or £1 million. That's the equivalent kind of thing in the circumstance of living and the living costs and so forth. So it was a huge blow to me. I suddenly had to come up with R1 million to pay. Otherwise, they were going to come and confiscate everything I had. In fact, it got so serious that my father, who was very upset and freaked out by what I was doing, my father was still alive at the time, and he had to transfer the property that I was about to inherit, the farm, or that I would inherit. I didn't realize my father would die shortly after that. But he then transferred the property that I would inherit if he died, or when he died, into a trust so that the banks couldn't lay their hands on it in case things went wrong and they would come after my inheritance. That's how serious it got. So what happened then? The bank hit me with all these court costs. It was actually, it's what happens is that the sheriff, I've now even forget the names, the sheriff of the court or the chief of the court, oh my God, I've now even forgotten what that person is called, the head of the court, of the High Court in South Africa. So he basically, I was called in and to review the whole case, and I was handed down all these court costs in the form of bills that I had to pay. And like I said, it amounted to R1 million. And there were 4 of these bills. So it wasn't just one bill, there were 4 of these bills. And I then had to make a decision what I was going to do.